Devastating moment, single dad with one left struggles for diapers. CEO steps in, shocks everyone. The sun hung low over the bleak landscape of the city streets, casting a shadow over a tired figure wrapped in desperation. Jason, a single dad with the weight of the world on his shoulders, stood at the checkout line, heart racing. $1. That was all he had left. It wasn't enough. The harsh fluorescent lights flickered above him, and the checkout scanner beeped like a metronome, counting down his last moments of dignity. He could see the baby diapers on the shelf, so close yet so far away, almost mocking him. As he fumbled with crumpled bills, a lump formed in his throat. He avoided the eyes of the onlookers, the judging whispers slicing through his thoughts like shards of glass. Panic gripped him. What would he tell his little girl if he couldn't provide? Chills ran down his spine, crawling like ants. Would he have to go home empty-handed? Shame washed over him, thick and suffocating, as the clerk eyed him with unimpressed disdain. But wait. It wasn't just a dime store drama. Suddenly, from the corner of the store, a tall figure appeared. A well-dressed businessman, CEO of a major corporation, strolled through the aisles, seemingly oblivious to the worries of the world around him. His aura exuded power, but behind those polished shoes lay a secret, something deeper. Could it be he was more than just a CEO? Were his own past struggles wrapped in those designer threads? Tension crackled in the air. Would he notice Jason? Would he care? The crowd held their breaths, eyes darting between the two men, the father on the verge of collapse, and the tycoon radiating wealth, seemingly untouched by worry. Gasps echoed around the store when the CEO abruptly stopped in front of Jason, his sleek gaze piercing through the defenses of fear and shame. What was he looking for? Did he see the desperation in Jason's eyes? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The glimmer in the CEO's eye hinted at something. The air thickened, as if time had stopped, leaving only the hum of uncertainty. Did he offer help? Would he turn his back? The surrounding crowd leaned in, expressions mixed with disbelief and hope. What could possibly happen next? Would this stranger change everything for Jason? And right in that heartbeat of tension, every person in the store felt the gravity of a decision hanging in the crisp air. Fear danced with hope, but one question remained: what would this powerful figure do next? The CEO took a step closer, his tailored blazer whispering against his crisp shirt. The murmurs in the store intensified as the silence pressed down around them, a living weight filled with expectation. Jason's heart thudded in his chest, each beat resonating with the unspoken fears swirling in his mind. Would this man reach into his pocket and pull out a miracle? Look, the CEO said, his voice low but carrying, we all have our moments, don't we? His smile was warm, yet there was an edge to it, like he understood far too much about the shadows lurking in Jason's life. The crowd was captivated, eyes wide, their expressions morphing from judgment to intrigue. Jason's breath hitched. I just need diapers. His voice cracked, filled with so much desperation that the words felt like they were scraping against the edges of his throat. He wasn't just asking for help, he was exposing his vulnerability to everyone watching. The CEO paused, glancing at the diapers on the shelf. With an almost imperceptible flicker in his eyes, he turned back to Jason. How much do you need? Was this really happening? Jason fought against the rising tide of emotion. I need about $20, at least. The words tumbled out, raw and honest. Without hesitation, the CEO reached into his designer jacket, fingers brushing against a leather wallet. A rustle echoed as he retrieved a crisp $20 bill. He held it out, but there was something heavy in that act. Take it, he said softly, yet something in his tone suggested that this wasn't purely a charitable gesture. Jason's eyes widened. The crowd buzzed with a mix of disbelief and hope. He slowly lifted his trembling hand, the bill hovering in the space between them. But as his fingers brushed against the paper, a spark of realization zapped through him. "Wait," he said, pulling back, a sudden rush of defiance surging. "Why are you doing this? What do you really want?" A flicker of surprise crossed the CEO's face, the easygoing demeanor faltering for just a moment. "I want to help," he replied, but the weight of the words felt loaded, the sincerity in them tinged with something else. The murmurs around them grew louder. Had Jason just deflected a kindness? The crowd was rapt, eyes darting between the two men, tension thrumming in the air like an electric current. As Jason tightened his grip around the last dollar he had, something shifted in him. The moral dilemma burned hot, to accept help when it could come with strings attached, or to stand firm in his pride, knowing he was capable of earning that money himself if life allowed him a chance. Before he could process his thoughts further, the CEO's gaze sharpened. "You don't understand. I know what it's like to be in your shoes. I've seen dark times, and you're stronger than you think." The crowd collectively gasped, hanging on to every word like it was the last ray of hope in a dark storm. The air crackled with an electric tension. Jason's heart raced, caught in a whirlwind of emotions. So many questions raced through his mind, fighting for attention. The stakes were rising, not just for him, but for the man standing before him. "What do you mean?" Jason probed intently, sensing there was more behind this stranger's kind facade. What secrets lay under his tailored suit? Before he could get an answer, the CEO took a bold step back, his expression shifting from warmth to something unreadable. "Understand this. It's not just about the diaper, it's about power. The choice is yours." Jason's mind reeled. Choices. Power. He could feel the weight of the moment shifting. Did he truly want to accept help or uncover the strings that came with it? In that charged atmosphere, the truth hung thick. What lay beneath their encounter? As the CEO turned to leave, he added one last stinger, "Just remember, everything comes at a cost." The words echoed in Jason's mind as he stood there, still clutching his dollar, now feeling heavier than ever. What price was he willing to pay? With a single choice, everything in his life could change or stay the same. And as he watched the CEO disappear into the crowd, uncertainty loomed large. What lay ahead? Would he find the courage to forge his own path, or would the next chapter of his life be unwritten by someone else's design? Jason stood frozen, the crumpled dollar gripped tightly in his sweaty palm. The soft sounds of the bustling store faded, replaced by the jagged rhythm of his thoughts. Could he truly turn down the offer? A sinkhole of panic lodged in his gut. The spectators, once a mere crowd, felt like judges, eyes piercing him with silent scrutiny. He glanced toward the door the CEO had just exited. What had he walked away with? Power? A promise? Or just the knowledge that he could manipulate a struggling man with a few simple words? What was strength if it came at the cost of his dignity? The silence settled again, heavy and suffocating. The crowd began to stir, shocked whispers becoming a chorus of mixed reactions. "He didn't take it," someone exclaimed, disbelief dripping from her voice. "Can you blame him?" whispered another. $20 from a guy like that? There's always a catch. Jason's heart raced. He wanted to scream. Wanted to ask them all what they would do in his shoes. Instead, he just stood there, wrestling with the storm building inside him. His wallet was empty, but his pride burning bright. "Hey," a voice broke through his thoughts. It was a woman from the crowd, a stranger with wild hair and an earnest expression. "What are you gonna do? Can't you ask others for help?" Her question hung in the air, stark and unyielding. Jason felt the weight of it more than he wanted to admit. Could he beg for help from someone else? Would he swallow his pride again? The throbbing ache in his chest clamped tighter. I can manage," he finally replied, but the words felt weak. He didn't believe them, not really. He felt like a boxer clinging to the ropes, staggering back but refusing to fall. She stepped closer, her voice softer now. I could lend you some, why no? There's a church nearby that helps single parents like us. They won't judge. No, Jason interrupted, the tension prickling at the edges of his patience. I think I can do this on my own. The door swung open suddenly, and the CEO reappeared, his figure filling the threshold. The murmurings of the crowd swelled again. How is the choice coming along? He asked, a gleam of mischief dancing in his eyes. What do you want from me? Jason blurted out, the question spilling forth in a rush of frustration and fear. The audience collectively held their breath. The CEO paused, absorbing the challenge in Jason's voice. You're stronger than this moment. But I can help you go further. There's always a price, isn't there? Jason shot back, fueled by a fire he didn't know existed. What do you expect? My soul. Laughter erupted around them, forced, like a nervous instinct. The weight of emotions turned the atmosphere electric. The CEO's gaze darkened ever so slightly. It's not about the loss of yourself. It's about realizing what you can gain. Your pride is noble, but I see potential. Jason's heart pounded. Potential? Was this about more than just a $20 bill? Something's brewing in this man's chest, Jason thought. Money is a tool, friend, the CEO continued, his voice smooth, almost coaxing. But it's not the only leverage in life. Imagine not having to stress about necessities. Think bigger. Bigger. That single word wrapped around Jason like a vine, squeezing tighter. What was he really being offered here? Why? Jason replied with narrowed eyes, daring him to explain. It feels like you want something else. The CEO chuckled softly, his eyes flashing with amusement. All I want is to make a connection. But connections can lead to greater things. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. If you decide to take my help. The crowd shifted, excitement charging the air anew. Jason stood at a crossroads, danger and opportunity looming on either side. His palms were clammy, his jaw set. What's the catch? The CEO leaned in, his voice low and insistent. Perhaps you'll find out when you're ready to accept a chance. He turned again, his silhouette fading as he walked away, leaving Jason standing there, heart thumping, options spinning, and the unmistakable feeling that he stood at the precipice of a choice that could change everything. The crowd buzzed as the weight of uncertainty lingered in the air. What path would he choose, and what repercussions would follow? Jason's breath quickened. In that moment, he knew this wasn't just about diapers anymore. The stakes were much higher than he realized. What would happen when he finally stepped into that unknown? Jason's mind raced, a cacophony of fear and disbelief. The murmur of the crowd faded into a dull roar. Each heartbeat felt like a drum echoing in his ears, reminding him of the pressure building behind his eyes. He was no longer just a man with a crumpled dollar, he was the embodiment of a breaking point. Think bigger, the CEO's voice echoed, unraveling a twisted thread of ambition inside Jason. Did he even know what that meant? Bigger dreams had slipped through his fingers long ago, lost in the daily grind of survival. He glanced at the faces watching him, hoping for a hint, a nod of understanding. But the judgment lingered thick in the air, edging him closer to uncertainty. Jason. The voice broke through again, wild hair and earnest eyes, urging him onward like a lighthouse guiding a lost ship. Trust yourself. You've got more in you than this moment. A sudden wave of heat rushed through him. Did anyone truly believe in him? His heart clenched at the thought. What do I even have to lose? He muttered under his breath, igniting a flicker of rebellion, but the crowd didn't waver. They leaned in, anticipation crackling at their fingertips, perhaps sensing a transformation in him. Would he shatter under the pressure or break through to something new? He turned, scanning for the CEO, only to find the man standing still, arms folded, confidence spilling outward. The CEO's smug smile still danced on his lips, like a cat toying with a mouse. "What's it going to be, Jason?" he called across the distance, challenge etched into his tone. Jason clenched his fists. They weren't just watching, they were waiting for a show, a revelation. And for a short moment, Jason was lost in the chatter of possibility. What if? The thought tickled the edges of his mind. What if this was a chance, a moment he could transform his life? He began to grasp the tangibility of hope, that elusive concept he'd chased for so long. But till now, hope only flickered and dashed whenever he reached for it. "What happens when I say yes?" Jason asked, his voice steady, the defiance settling in like a soldier preparing for battle. The CEO chuckled lightly. "Ah, now you're thinking. Imagine the roads you could travel if you only embraced the risks." His voice carried an edge, a promise coiling beneath it, luring Jason closer to the gaping maw of possibilities. Imagine the struggles you could end, the life you could create for your child. He closed his eyes, picturing his daughter. The lines of weariness on her little face were etched into his heart, a permanent reminder of the stakes involved. What would happen if he walked away? If he chose to remain stuck? "What do you need to do?" the woman with wild hair urged again, desperation leaking into her voice. The room, once filled with onlookers, felt like a battleground between indecision and hope. "Do I sell my soul? My dignity?" Jason questioned aloud, as if urging the universe to provide an answer. In that stillness, Jason felt something shift inside. The daunting burden of pride flickered for a moment, revealing the raw longing for relief. The weight of desperation tinged with hope made him ache in ways he didn't know were possible. What if he hesitated, words trembling to escape his lips? "What if I decide to take a chance?" The crowd held their breath, the atmosphere charged with the thrill of uncertain transformation. Jason's throat tightened as he turned fully to face the CEO, the man emanating assuredness like an aura. "But how do I know you'll deliver on your promises?" The CEO stepped forward, an almost predatory gleam in his eye. "It's not about me delivering, Jason. It's about you finally stepping into your potential. Can you see it?" Behind Jason, the crowd shifted restlessly, tension bubbling between them all as excitement danced around the possibility of a handshake that could change everything. He could feel the weight of their eyes, hopes, dreams, and fears projected onto him. Would he falter under pressure or find the strength to rise? As the CEO extended his hand, the world felt like it shrank to that singular moment. "Take it, Jason. Embrace what you deserve." But as he reached out, was it a hand or a trap? The question lingered like a palpable mist. With the weight of a decision heavy on his heart, Jason hesitated, his heart racing wildly, teetering on the edge of a leap into the unknown. Would he risk it all or walk away from a possible salvation? What lay beyond that handshake was anyone's guess. The seconds stretched into eternity as Jason hovered on the brink of his choice. The CEO's hand was still extended, fingers beckoning with calculated allure. It painted a picture of success, woven with threads of ambition and potential futures. But doubt clawed at him, relentless and sharp. Was he ready to plunge into the void? He felt the weight of the crowd's anticipation like a heavy fog pressing down, stifling his breath. Every pair of eyes seemed to judge him, laced with their hopes and fears that rested upon his shoulders. "What am I doing?" he thought, panic prickling his skin. This was more than just a transaction, it was a maze built of promises, each turn leading deeper into something he might not escape. "Jason!" the woman shouted, her voice cutting through his haze. "You deserve to take a chance. You have to believe." Her words flared hot against his conscience. They ignited a spark, one that flickered dangerously close to the tightly wound cord of desperation that had held him for so long. His life had become a series of careful calculations, every decision influenced by the dread of what could go wrong. Every moment of hesitation clamored for his attention, screaming reminders of the very real stakes, his daughter, the life he wanted for her, the future that seemed to slip further away with each passing day. But was this gamble worth it? The whispers of insecurity echoed loudly in his mind. What if he took this step and it unleashed a chain of events that spiraled down into chaos? What if this choice chained him to a fate worse than the one he faced now? The crowd shifted. Jason felt the pulse of their collective heartbeat, a strange synchrony that mirrored his own. "You're more than this moment," he heard the wild-haired woman insist, and it resonated within him, a lifeline thrown into tumultuous seas. Could he be more? Inhaling deeply, he wrestled with the rawness of his emotions. Fear battled with longing, a longing not just for success, but for a life that felt truly alive. Holding on to his daughter's hand, sharing laughter, building a home. Wouldn't he owe it to her to at least try? "Take it, Jason," the CEO urged again, a calm confidence radiating from him, almost charming in its ease. "Seize this opportunity." The crowd's breath intertwined with his racing heartbeat, entangled in suspense. Slowly, Jason reached out, heart pounding like a war drum in his chest as his fingertips brushed against the CEO's palm, but before the handshake could complete, a jarring sound erupted. A loud crash echoed through the room, as if a thunderclap had struck from within. All heads turned towards the source of the disruption. Standing at the edge of the crowd was a woman looking wildly out of place, her eyes wide with panic, her face a mask of distress that cut through the tension like a knife. "Jason! Don't do it!" she shouted, her voice trembling with fear. The crowd gasped at the sudden outburst, confusion knitting their brows together. "What do you mean?" Jason called back, the intensity of the moment fracturing under her unexpected arrival. His heart raced anew, caught in another storm of uncertainty. "Stop!" she insisted, advancing toward him, urgency fueling her every step. "You don't know what you are getting into." The CEO's expression shifted, a dark shadow crossing his features. "That's enough!" he barked, but the woman pressed on, fear echoing in her voice. Jason's mind swirled as he faced this new chaos. Who was she? What did she know? With the room hanging on a knife's edge, Jason realized one truth: the stakes had just risen higher. As he stared between the two, the tension snapping like a tightrope ready to break, the question loomed large. What secrets lay waiting to be unraveled, and could he still take a step toward the future he so desperately desired? His future hung in the balance, and the next move would change everything. The woman was closing the distance, a whirlwind of anxious energy. Her eyes darted nervously before locking onto Jason's. They were pleading, full of urgency. "Please, you have to listen to me," she gasped, each word slipping out as if it would vanish into thin air. "Who are you?" Jason demanded, an edge creeping into his voice. The world around him had narrowed down to just her and the CEO, who stood with a practiced calmness, his mask of confidence hardening at the interruption. "Your life isn't what you think it is, Jason," she continued, desperation coloring her tone. "I know what's at stake. You're walking into a trap." A murmur rippled through the crowd, their curiosity piqued. Jason's stomach tightened. Was she an insider? Someone who had uncovered a dark secret? "Enough!" The CEO's voice boomed. The commanding authority in his tone was unmistakable. "You're not making any sense. Leave now, or I'll have you removed." Jason's heart raced. He felt the pressure of the crowd's eyes on him again, a tide of expectations crashing down. Confusion gnawed at him. Was this just a ploy to cast doubt? Or was there more to her warning? "Listen. I'm here to help you," the woman urged, stepping closer still, a defiant spark in her eyes. "There's a reason they chose you, and it's not what you think. I know your daughter. She's in danger." The mention of his daughter struck Jason like a physical blow, piercing through the haze of uncertainty with raw, electric fear. "What do you mean? What danger?" Just then, the realization hit him: this was no longer just about a job, or ambition. His daughter, the life he fought so hard to protect, was now wrapped in whatever storm was brewing in that corporate office. The stakes now reached a level he could never have anticipated. Your decision might cost you everything. She exclaimed, voice breaking. This contract, it's a bargain with the devil. A gasp escaped from the crowd, whispering disbelief among them. Jason felt a surge of defiance rising within him. Why should I believe you? What proof do you have? Before she could respond, the CEO stepped forward, his lips curled with barely contained irritation. You're being misled, he spat out, a challenge in his tone. You've worked hard for this. Don't let some crazed stranger derail your future. Do you want to end up like the others who have failed? Like the others? Jason echoed, dread pooling in his stomach. What others? Enough. The CEO barked again, his frustration mounting as the tension warped the air between them. The woman's voice trembled despite the fierceness within it. Jason, the truth is buried deep in that company's history. You're not just chasing a better life, you're stepping into a legacy of corruption. Trust me. I've seen it. The scattered pieces of the moment collided in Jason's mind, a dizzying spiral of fear and anger. But the room shifted again, shifting like the ground beneath him. The crowd around them inhaled sharply, a collective concern settling into their expressions. His hands were clammy, heart racing. The future he yearned for felt tantalizing yet fraught with unseen terrors. As he stood there at this crossroads, a sudden realization dawned: maybe this wasn't just about a choice between security and ambition. Maybe it was a fight for the very thing that mattered most, his daughter's safety. He stood on this precipice, the weight of his decision heavier than ever. The echoes of urgency wrapped around him, spiraling toward a confrontation that was now inevitable. Could he truly trust his instincts, or would he plunge into a pit where both ambition and truth faced off against danger? Jason inhaled sharply, and glanced between the two fierce presences, ready for his next move. What will it be? He thought. With uncertainty rife in the air, one truth loomed larger than the rest: the moment of reckoning was closing in. What lay ahead, and would he be prepared for the fallout? Jason's heart raced as he weighed the tension between the woman's frantic pleas and the CEO's icy demeanor. Was this the moment where everything changed? His grip tightened on the folder he carried, the ink on the contract blurring in his mind. The CEO watched him with hawk-like intensity, as if Jason's every thought were written on his forehead. Choose wisely, the CEO warned, but it felt like more than a mere suggestion. It was a threat, cloaked in the guise of professional advice. Your daughter's life hangs in the balance. The woman's voice broke through the oppressive air, a beacon of fear and truth. Her desperation was a ripple in the thick tension, but it reached him, sparking something deep within. Jason felt his resolve solidify. He stepped forward, closing the distance. How do you know my daughter? He demanded, feeling adrenaline surge through him. I worked for the company years ago, she said, eyes wide with urgency. I saw things. Terrible things. This place, it's not just about business. It's about control, and your daughter is more entwined in this than you know. Enough. The CEO interrupted sharply. This is unprofessional, and you're risking your own safety. A slight tremor of uncertainty flickered in the woman's gaze, but she held on. Jason, please. They're gonna use you. You need to look deeper into their past, their secrets. I can help you if you're willing to listen. Jason felt his chest tighten, overwhelming possibilities crashing through him. Did he dare turn away from the potential of success? Or did parental instinct take precedence? The world shrank, the crowd fading into mere shadows. He could almost hear his daughter's laughter fading, making space for darkness he couldn't allow to settle. His thoughts raced. If I sign, what happens to her? What role did they have in this? Who were the other failures? They were sacrificed, the woman whispered fervently. Failed to deliver what the company required. Your harm isn't just collateral. It serves a purpose. With each word, Jason feared the implications deepened. The stakes weren't merely financial, they were life or death. The CEO shifted slightly, a jawline rigid, masking irritation. "So what's it gonna be, Jason?" the CEO demanded, his tone tinged with menace. "Your future is bright. Don't let this charade dictate your path." A roar of emotion erupted within Jason. No longer was he a mere pawn in their game, he was a father in a desperate fight. "Get out of my way," he pressed, feeling the ground beneath him press back. In an unexpected flash, Jason turned to the woman, the warmth of her eyes igniting a flicker of hope. "What do I do? Tell me what you need me to do." "Meet me tonight," she said, a whisper that barely crossed through the surrounding tension. "The truth is buried in the archives, away from prying eyes. I'll show you what the company doesn't want you to see. If we act fast, we can uncover their secrets before it's too late." Jason's mind reeled with possibilities. This was the risk of a lifetime, one that could cost him everything but might just save his daughter. The CEO's presence felt like an ominous shadow, ready to pounce the moment Jason showed weakness. Tonight, Jason confirmed, a new surge of determination flooding his veins. He backed away, not entirely prepared for the confrontation that lay ahead but fueled by a need to protect his child. "You'll regret this." The CEO spat, but the fire behind Jason's eyes was unyielding. As the crowd began to murmur with curiosity and disbelief, Jason's heart hammered wildly in his chest. What awaited him in that dimly lit archive? One truth buzzed insistently in his mind: he was no longer just an employee, he was a father faced with making the most dangerous choice of his life. Would he uncover a truth worth risking it all? Or would the darkness consume him before he could act? Jason left the crowd behind, his head buzzing with chaos as he navigated the grim hallways of the building. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting harsh shadows that seemed to mock his desperation. Each step felt heavy, burdened with the weight of the decision before him. He checked his watch. Night was creeping in, and the dread of what could happen if he didn't find answers gnawed at his insides. Thoughts of his daughter on her own, vulnerable and alone, gripped him tighter than any fear the CEO had instilled. "Get it together," he muttered under his breath, reminding himself of the purpose driving him forward. He paused at a large window, the city lights in the distance a stark contrast to the darkness looming in his mind. Deep breaths. Focus on the woman, on the truth that could save her. He had to keep that in sight, no matter how terrifying the path felt. By the time he reached the meeting spot, a secluded corner behind the archives, his pulse was racing again. The woman was already there, her silhouette framed against the dim light flickering from a nearby street lamp. Anxiety washed over him as he approached. What if the CEO finds out? Jason whispered, urgency coursing through him. What if he retaliates? She narrowed her eyes, determination etched in her features. He won't know if we're careful. This information is dangerous, it's why I was let go. They had to silence me, but they didn't cover everything. Glancing back over his shoulder, Jason felt paranoia creeping in. What do you mean? What are we looking for? The files about the last 3 employees, she said, pulling a small flash drive from her jacket pocket. They were all involved in experiments. I can't explain everything now, but I know your daughter's linked. It's why they wanted you on board so badly. They need your input, they need someone to fall in line. If we don't expose this, Jason's heart sank. What were those experiments? What could they want? Control, she replied, her voice low yet intense. Control over lives, over outcomes. It's never just about the money for them, it's about power. Your daughter is a key asset in all this. He felt sick. The gravity of her words wrapped around him like a noose. My daughter a pawn? Maybe it's worse. They could use her as leverage. We must dig deep enough to reveal their plans. The urgency in her tone sent a chill up his spine. Every instinct screamed at him to run, yet his feet remained rooted in place. She handed him the flash drive, and their fingers brushed lightly. He sensed the gravity of the moment, a point of no return. Let us get inside, Jason said, his voice shaking slightly. We can only do this together. Suddenly, footsteps echoed down the hallway behind them. Panic surged, and Jason's eyes widened. Quick! Hide, he ordered, pulling her into the shadows as the footsteps grew closer, a flicker of dread settling in his stomach. They pressed back against the wall, heartbeats racing in harmony. With every passing second, the tension thickened, and Jason's breath hitched. Then, as the footsteps stopped just a few feet away, he strained to listen. Did you hear that? He held his breath, the weight of his decision crashing over him again. Was it too late to turn back now? A whispered voice broke through the darkness from beyond. Jason, are you in there? Was it a trap? He couldn't risk his daughter's safety. But abandoning this moment could come with consequences far worse. Are you ready to fight for the truth? The woman whispered, her resolve reigniting something within him. But with someone closing in, did he dare step into the light? The notion gripped his gut as he steadied himself. Could he truly confront the darkness lurking beyond, or would the truth remain shrouded in shadows? And as the footsteps approached with an ominous finality, he knew this was only the beginning. The footsteps paused, the silence slicing through the air like a razor. Jason's heart drummed in his ears, drowning out everything else. Who was on the other side? A friend, or the enemy he feared? Jason, the voice called again, a hint of panic threading through the whisper. You have to trust me. I'm looking out for you and your daughter. Please, step out. He cast a quick glance at the woman beside him, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. Time was slipping through his fingers like sand. If he didn't act now, would he lose both the moment and his chance to save his daughter? Stay close, he whispered, gripping her arm tightly. Then, with a deep breath that felt like it could shatter his lungs, he stepped forward, breaking from the shadows. The figure revealed itself, and Jason was met with the last person he expected. It was Mark, his colleague, a gentleman with a warm smile and a heart of gold. But there was something different about him now. He looked worn, haunted, as if a weight of secrets lay heavy on his shoulders. Mark? Jason's voice shook, disbelief washing over him. What are you doing here? I followed you, he replied, glancing nervously down the hallway. I had to make sure you weren't walking into a trap. They're watching everything. If they find out, your daughter. His words trailed off, leaving an ominous echo in the air. Do you know anything about the experiments? Jason pressed, desperation tinging his voice. Mark swallowed hard and nodded, the flickering street lamp casting shadows on his anxious face. I know more than I should, but we need to move. We're running out of time. You need to see this. Without another word, he backed away, gesturing for Jason and the woman to follow. Every instinct screamed at Jason to bolt, but he couldn't let his fears dictate his actions, not when his daughter's safety was at stake. As they made their way deeper into the building, the fluorescent lights flickered ominously, casting macabre shadows on the walls. Every corner felt like an ambush waiting to happen. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Jason asked, trying to keep his voice steady despite the rising fear. You could have warned me. I was afraid, Mark admitted, his tone low. I didn't know how deep it went. Honestly, I still don't. But I couldn't let your daughter become another victim. What do you mean, another victim? The words tasted bitter on his tongue. Mark hesitated, then turned to face Jason, sadness pooling in his eyes. The last 3 employees? They disappeared. Just gone. It's like they never existed, right after signing off on the project. It's all connected. A heavy silence fell between them, allowing the implications to sink in. Jason's throat dried up, panic clawing at him. His daughter's name echoed in his mind like an alarm bell. This can't be our reality. His breath hitched, an overwhelming wave of anger and helplessness crashing down on him. She's just a child. Mark's face hardened with resolve. That's why we have to act fast. We need proof. We have to expose them before they can do anything to her. As they reached a dimly lit room filled with stacks of forgotten files, Mark reached for a dusty cabinet and pulled it open. "This is it," he said, rummaging inside. "This contains everything." Jason felt the tension crackle in the air. What would they find? A truth so ugly it could destroy lives. Suddenly, the lights flickered again, and distant voices echoed from the hallway, a sharp reminder that time was against them. Jason's heart raced, dread pooling in his stomach. They had to move faster. "Take a look at this," Mark urged, tossing a folder onto the table. Jason flipped it open, his eyes racing over the documents. He felt a rush of nausea as the words blurred into focus, the evidence of manipulation, the extent of the dark agenda laid bare. But as the horrifying realization settled into his gut, the note spiraled into a detailed plan, one that involved his daughter directly. "What is this?" he exclaimed, horror blaring through him as he recognized the implications. With every beat of his heart, he felt the shadows closing in, darkness creeping at the edges of their diminishing light. The danger was palpable, overwhelming, and it was only a matter of time before someone connected the dots. "Jason. We need to go," the woman urged, her urgency spiking again, but he couldn't tear himself away. "We can't leave now, not with this information. It's bigger than us, bigger than I thought." Just then, the heavy thud of boots echoed outside the door, and Jason's breath caught in his throat. They couldn't let them find out they were here. "Get down," he barked, adrenaline surging. The three of them dropped to the floor as the door swung open, the shadows spilling into the room. Jason's heart pounded like a drum, tearing between the need to act and the fear of being caught. Would they be discovered here, just as they were on the edge of unraveling the truth? And as the shuffling chaos grew louder, he realized that confronting the darkness was no longer a choice, it was imminent. "Are you ready to face whatever comes next?" the woman whispered, her eyes fierce and determined. Jason nodded, feeling the weight of the flash drive tucked in his pocket. No matter what awaited, he knew one thing: there would be no going back now. With the pounding of his heart echoing in his ears, he braced himself for what lay ahead, as secrets began to peel away like fragile layers, revealing horrors he might wish he'd never seen. The room remained cloaked in a heavy silence, the three of them embodying stillness as the pounding footsteps drew closer. Jason's heart raced, the urgency coiling tighter within him. He glanced at the folder, evidence of something sinister. It was a reality he had no choice but to face now. The door swung open, a beam of light slicing through the dark, revealing two shadowy figures. Mark held his breath, eyes wide with fear. Jason barely dared to breathe, feeling the cold sweat drench his palms. "Stay low," he whispered, gripping the edge of the table as his muscles tightened. "Where are they?" one of the intruders growled, the voice a chilling rasp. Another voice echoed, "They must have gone this way." Jason could feel the heat of panic inching closer, threatening to ignite an explosion of chaos. They needed to act, and fast. With a glance between the three, determination surged in Jason's veins. This was bigger than just him, it was about his daughter, their futures clasped together in a tight bond. He quickly snatched the flash drive from his pocket, thrusting it into Mark's hand. "Get out through the back, take it to the media. We need to expose them." "I'll hold them off," he urged, the resolve shaping his words stronger than he knew he possessed. "No," the woman hissed, grasping his forearm. "We can't just leave you." Fear glimmered in her eyes, the ripple of hopelessness threatening to wash over them. Jason's heart fractured at her expression, but he forced himself to remain resolute. "You have to. The truth is too important," he insisted, his voice urgent yet calm. "This is my fight. I can't let them take her from me." Mark nodded, urgency settling in his chest as he moved toward the back exit, but paused. "Watch your back, Jason. Don't give in." The footsteps grew louder, close enough that Jason could visualize the predatory smirks on their faces. They were several steps closer to tearing apart everything he cared about. he couldn't let that happen. Go now. He urged, a final push that prompted them to vanish into the shadows. Jason steeled himself, the looming threat of confrontation pure fire in his veins. The intruders were caught off guard when he suddenly rose, crashing into the table with a thunderous slam. "You're not taking anything from me," he shouted, adrenaline igniting the words like flame on paper. The figures turned, a mix of surprise and anger twisting their features. "What is this? A brave little mouse?" One sneered, stepping forward, while the other, a broader silhouette, trailed close behind. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be," the broader one growled, advancing with menace. "Just hand over the files and we might let you walk out without a scratch." Jason's chest tightened. "No. I'll never be part of your game." His defiance felt tangible in the air, crackling with the heat of his conviction. With every ounce of courage he could muster, he launched himself at the figures. The world narrowed down, every sound dulled until only the deafening rhythm of his heart resounded. He was ready to fight for his daughter, even if it meant enduring pain. In a blur of motion, fists flew and chaos erupted as he grappled with one of the intruders. The grip was rough, jarring, but Jason felt alive. The stakes never felt so crystal clear. He needed to protect those he loved at all costs, but the other assailant quickly tackled him down, and the air left his lungs in a rush of shock. Darkness loomed in the corners of his vision as the two figures forced him to the ground. Panic surged, but the promise of his daughter blazed a path through the fear. "Enough!" One bellowed, pinning Jason down, the weight of the situation squeezing the air from his lungs. "You should have thought this through." And in the moment of uncertainty, something inside Jason snapped. The thought of giving up was unbearable. With a surge of primal instinct, he twisted, adrenaline fueling him as he fought back with everything he had left, every ounce of desperation rushing forth. The scuffle was chaotic, a clash of raw energy fueled by a father's fury. The two assailants stumbled back for a brief second, giving Jason just enough time to scramble back to his feet. He rushed towards the door, ready to escape with everything he held dear. "Stop!" the broader figure called, trying to regain control. But Jason was single-minded, his fear morphing into fierce resolve. Bursting out into the corridor, he ran with a purpose, propelled by the need to protect. He didn't know where he was going, he only knew he couldn't back down now. He dashed past office doors, seeking any path to freedom, any hint of security where his daughter could be safe from the clutches of danger. Panic surged in his chest. What if they turned their sights on her? His mind spun with visions of her laughter, innocence untouched, but that innocence was hanging by a thread, and he had to sever it from the darkness looming above. Then, a flash of light broke through his chaotic thoughts. It was the emergency exit, the promise of safety beckoning him closer. If he could just reach it. Suddenly, voices echoed from behind, and the assailants were hot on his trail. "Catch him!" one shouted, and Jason felt a surge of fear propel him faster, his legs pumping like pistons driving him forward. He burst through the door just as their shadows erupted from the corridor, and the cool night air hit him like a splash of water, the sudden relief flooding his system. He had no time. He raced down an alley, heart pounding against his chest as he struggled to stay ahead of the darkness chasing him. Every step felt like he was fighting against the very fabric of reality. And then, he spotted a glimmer of hope, a light at the end of the tunnel. It was the street with cars zooming by, oblivious to the desperation unfolding just moments before. Jason burst forth, ready to collapse into a world of safety, but as he stumbled onto the street, his heart sank. His daughter's face flashed before him, her small frame filled with light and joy, and he couldn't bear to let the darkness overshadow her. He needed to get to her, get away from the web. Drawing closer, suddenly a familiar car screeched to a halt. It was the woman from earlier, her face a mix of resolve and panic. "Get in!" she shouted urgently, her expression reflecting a battle fought in the shadows of time. Without hesitation, Jason leapt into the passenger seat, panic still thrumming through him. "They're coming!" he gasped, scrambling for answers. "I know. We need to get far away from here quick." She threw the car into gear, tires screeching against the pavement, and they peeled away. As the city lights blurred behind him, Jason finally allowed himself to breathe just for a moment. They had bought time, but it was only the beginning. How do we uncover the truth? He gasped, adrenaline still coursing through him, knowing the battle was far from over. She glanced at him, a fierceness sparking in her eyes. We dig deeper, gather evidence, and expose them. This isn't just about surviving, it's about making sure they can never harm anyone again. Not you, not your daughter. Jason felt the fire reignite within him, an unyielding resolve. He wouldn't rest until he unveiled the darkness lurking beneath the surface, until he could ensure his daughter's laughter echoed in a world free of shadows, a world where she could thrive like she deserved. And as the night swallowed their fears, resolve blossomed in its place, marking the beginning of their fight against an unseen battle, full of secrets he was determined to uncover. He wasn't just a man fighting for his daughter. He was a force ready to dismantle the darkness, and he wouldn't stop until the truth shone bright, illuminating the path needed to secure everything he cherished. But as they drove further into the night, Jason couldn't shake the feeling that the fight was far from over. There were shadows closing in, and with each truth unearthed, the danger would only grow sharper. He was ready to face it. "Let us do this," he said, fierce determination flooding his voice. And with that, both fear and hope danced along the edges of their journey ahead, igniting a passionate fire in the depths of his soul, one set on forging a future free of demons lurking in the darkness, no matter the cost. This was just the beginning, and together, they would rise against the tide. You need to subscribe now. You don't want to miss the exclusive stories coming up next. Smash that like button now to show your support and feed the algorithm. And flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. What do you think will happen next? Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let us spread the word. You're part of this amazing community, so join us in this fight for truth and justice.